Veterans Day to me.
Veterans Day means to me.
Veterans Day means to me.
So to me, I believe
I see Veterans Day as
Helps me open up and realize what all the sacrifices that go along with veterans, and just getting to learn more about it and understand it and really respect it, appreciate everyone is, I think, the most important part of it.
It's a remembrance for the sacrifice and service of generations past that served in all our wars.
all the veterans that go out have to do probably the worst job in the world. Do all this stuff protecting us. When they get back, there's nothing for them. I believe we should have this holiday in order to honor them and remember all the things that they did and what they did for us and why we should respect them.
as a way to recognize the veterans' achievements and ways that they sacrifice their time.
Dad's side of the family and my mom's have been in a lot of battles and wars and all that. Some aren't here anymore, so we just kind of mean a lot.
Remembering what happened and what people have been through in the war, because they felt like our country meant more than their own lives.
My name is Dan Bicker.
And I'm George Gilmore.
I served in Fort Campbell, Kentucky for 2 months, and Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri for 2 months, and then Vietnam for 14 months, 1969 to 1970.
Well, I got drafted in 1965 for 6 years. 2 years as active, then 4 years as reserve, and I was in Texas, San Antonio, and then later I was in Georgia. And I was pretty lucky. I got to stay in Georgia for 1.5 years instead of going to Vietnam.
Way more patriotic than I was when I went in the Army. That's one good thing that did come out of it. But as far as going to Vietnam, if I didn't go to Vietnam, wouldn't have cared one bit, because back in the 60s, nobody wanted to go to Vietnam.
I had just been married 45 days before I went, so it was harder on me because my wife was pretty upset. So I was worried about her more than myself. Like Dan said, we all kind of were concerned whether we're going to have to go to Vietnam, and then sure enough, after medical training, they sent me to Georgia. But then it turned out they already had all their men that they were supposed to have, so they transferred me to an ambulance company, and I drove ambulance in for 1.5 years and then went home.
Show appreciation?
Yes.
Well, there's 2 ways. One is fly the American flag. A lot of people don't. I know a lot of veterans, and every one of them do fly the American flag. And 2, if you see a veteran, whether he's wearing a hat or a coat that says that he is a veteran, thank him for his service. That does mean a lot. It wasn't too many years ago, I wore my first veteran hat. I wore it in the bank, and I did my banking, and when I went to leave, the young lady thanked me for my service. And I didn't know what she meant at the time. And she could see that I turned and looked at her, and she pointed to my hat.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that brought a smile that lasted the entire day. So do acknowledge a veteran if you see him. Thank him for your service. They appreciate it, and you'll feel better after doing that also.
I just say ditto to that. Plus, most of us look better with a hat on. Right, Dan?
Yeah, kind of thin up here. Of course, everybody knows there was over 58,000 soldiers killed in Vietnam. And of that 58,000, almost 40,000 were 22 years or younger. 8,000 were 19, 33,000 were 18, 12 of them were 17 years old, and 5 soldiers died that were 16 years old. Here's the numbers that they really get to you. 997 were killed on the first day in Vietnam. When you're in Vietnam and you have 2 or 3 days left, that's all you think about is going home. Right. And you can imagine almost 1,500 were killed on the last day in Vietnam. That's something to be thought about.